You are listening to the Nosy Drag Inn. I'm your dungeon master / innkeeper, Justin. I'm joined by my player / patron, Ben.
A good evening to you.
In today's session, we talk all about One D&D. This episode was made possible in part by Kind Encounters. More about them later in the episode. Welcome, Ben. Welcome back to my lovely tavern.
Thank you. Good old... You know what? I gotta say, one thing that I really love about this place, it's consistency. You know?
Actually, a lot of things have changed. There's this experimental kind of god that came in, changing things up. I always just increased my stats, but suddenly I have a feat now. I don't know where it came from.
What's a feat? Sorry, I'm only familiar with the 5e system.
No, feats are in 5e.
Oh, damn it! I've been cheated. Sorry. Wait. What's
one of those dungeon masters?
I gotta.
If you're a human, who plays a human if you're not going to be a variant human?
I didn't know there was a variant. I can be a different me. All right. No, but really though, what's happening? What's changed? I'm filled with anxiety now.
Well, you know how you used to have, like, you were kind of a jack of all trades. Like, you had kind of like a +1 in intelligence and a +1 to wisdom and a +1 to charisma and a +1 to constitution, a +1 to strength, +1 to dexterity.
Well, I got it all.
Now you get a +2 to one thing and a +1 to another, and it's your choice.
No.
Yeah.
Gods, no.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry.
No.
Here, drink this. It won't take your pain away, but it'll make you forget for just today.
Huh? What were we talking about?
Guys, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
Joining us. We are talking all about One D&D today. It has just come out for us. It came out just a few days ago. And I've scoured through the supplemental rules that they have announced, the revisions that they want to make, the little additions, things they think will be good for the game. So far, they've released some new feats / rewritings of old feats, a few races, including a new race. Shout out to the Ardling, which is what was described as the good or the upper planes version of the Tiefling, which is strange because I thought that's what Aasimar were, but no, that's what Ardlings are, you dumb idiot. They've gotten rid of half races in a sense, but they've also increased it tenfold in a weird way.
What?
So there's no more half elves and half orcs. We just have an orc and an elf. Yeah, a lot of stuff to get into. So I think we'll just kind of go in order.
Yeah. Just to mention to the audience, I actually haven't really looked into it at all. I'm standing in as sort of an outside observer, having played the the more current versions that we've had of Dungeons and Dragons. So this is going to be new for me as it is for you guys. I'm excited to find out.
This is the new Unearthed Arcana. So this is kind of a typical thing that D&D does. Well, I don't know typical, but it happened for 5th edition. They called it Next D&D or D&D Next, something like that. Before, while they were working on it, as they released what they call the Unearthed Arcana, which we've gotten to know is like D&D's way of play testing stuff before they make it official.
Right.
So One D&D is their goal is to add to 5th edition rather than to make a new edition. So it's not 6th edition, and they don't really even want to call it 5.5 like they did in 3rd edition. They did 3.5.
Yeah.
That's not really that. It's kind of they want to make just D&D. There's no more additions. This is just D&D. Going forward is just D&D. It's no more. We're not going to do a 6th edition, which we'll see how long that lasts. But
Yeah, yeah. So this is kind of this D&D one thing it's sort of almost like a DLC type deal.
yeah, it's like an update to the rules. So basically, they're saying, "Hey, we've noticed some gaps, some missings, and some things that you as a community are doing and using, and we wanna make the game better, improve the game to
Okay.
be kind of what you're looking for."
Interesting. That's always a nice prospect, but sometimes execution can be a little different, so we'll see.
Yeah, so they've integrated some new things. We're going to talk about the human. So this is the human traits. So this is if you're playing a human, you're making your character sheet. This is what you'd read to learn more about the human. I'm not going to get into any of the lore things they mentioned for human. You can read that if you go to dndbeyond.com and you click. There's a One D&D on the landing page. You can read this PDF that they've released. They're planning to release one every month for a while until 2024, when they hope to release the whatever this is. They're going to remake the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, but everything else is going to stay the same. So any
Gotcha.
modules, Xanathar's Guide, all those things won't be changed.
I see. Just the core rule books. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the goal. That's the dream. But who knows? Who knows what will actually happen? So here's for the human. Some interesting things here. Humans are no longer just medium. So medium, and then it says about 4 to 7 feet tall, or small, right? So you can now be medium or small category.
Oh.
And it says about 2 to 4 feet tall.
Huh.
So the thing that they were kind of going there for is they were like, we really want D&D to represent the real world. We want anyone to be able to play D&D and feel like that they're allowed to be here in this D&D world. And in reality, there are real humans who are not medium category.
True. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Like, if I'm wanting to play a human, I don't want to, or like, if I am a little person, then do I am I subjecting myself to only have to, like, if I want to represent myself, do I only play halflings? Like, is a halfling supposed to represent little people, or is it an entirely different race?
Yeah, I think they're trying to show that it's the races in D&D are not allegories for the races and different things in real life, that they are in fact
Entirely.
exactly what they are.
Gotcha.
Right. So if you're a human, you are represented in D&D, and they're trying to show that here by saying that humans can be as tall as 7 feet tall, because there are humans that are that
true.
tall.
Yeah.
The movement speed is still 30 feet. It says lifespan on 80 years on average. And then here are some interesting things that make the human unique, because it used to be that each race had what people refer to as an ASI attached to it, which was like, your race. Well, I don't know what it stands for. That's what everyone says.
But it's like your racial bonuses, right?
Yeah, your racial bonuses, right? So it's like, as a tiefling, you get like a +2 to charisma and a +1 to something else, right?
Yeah.
As a high elf, you get a +2 to intelligence and a plus something to something else, right? So now your background informs your ASI. So in your background, you get to choose a +2 bonus to an ability score and a +1 bonus to a different ability score of your choice. And we're going to go through the backgrounds. They have some examples of how the backgrounds are going to work. So let's read the rest of the human. It says, resourceful. You gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. So this is something you're going to see more often, actually. They're implementing more abilities that allow players to grant themselves inspiration, because they really want inspiration to be more of a forefront kind of an ability, kind of a thing to be used, that they felt it was kind of underutilized, and that DMs often didn't remember to use it or to give it out. So now
I see.
Players have a way to get it themselves.
Okay. Interesting.
So next we
No. Keep on going. I've got a couple comments, but I'll save them for later.
Next we have skillful. You gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. Then we have versatile. You gain the skilled feat or another first level feat of your choice. So everybody, as a part of your background now, gets a free feat.
Ooh, that's cool.
So as a part of your background, you can pick a feat. They have some example feat backgrounds that come with example feats that go with that background. And again, we'll touch more on that later. But yeah, so humans, the variant human, I guess, still does kind of exist. Every human is a variant human now, and they all get 2 feats at level 1, where every other race will get a feat at level 1, just not 2 of them.
I see. Interesting.
However, listen to this distinction: or another first level feat. So this is the first time we're hearing level attached to feat. There was something like feat trees, family trees, like, in order, in like 3rd edition or 2nd edition, there was like cleave, right? And then there was improved greater cleave.
Right. So like,
and you had to have cleave in order to get improved greater
there were prerequisites for certain feats.
Yeah, this isn't that. It's just that some feats will have a level associated with them. So, for an example, we don't know yet. We haven't seen anything beyond the first level feats, but in theory, you might see a feat like sharpshooter being hidden behind level 5, perhaps, or maybe higher.
Okay.
And
interesting.
It seems like the direction that they're kind of going with that, and the purpose behind that, is that way we can make feats that are incredibly powerful, but we don't have to worry about a variant human picking it up at level 1 and ruining the balance of the game. It'll be at a higher level where it's more appropriate and easier for your dungeon master to balance.
Gotcha. Okay. I can see the validity behind that. I remember, the whole system of feats has kind of been like a little bit of a touch and go subject with 5th edition. 3.5, it was very common, feats were a big deal. But then in 5e, I remember when 5e was first kind of coming out and being implemented, that it was a little bit more like taboo to pick feats. I think more recently it's been a lot of people have been choosing feats as options for their players, but now to hear that they're making it more comprehensive, I think that's good. I think having it be more accessible, or at least like more ordained, figuring out the feat system in a way that makes sense and is fair.
Yeah, back to the kind of like, why is the human, if the human doesn't get a +1 to every stat at level 1, and they're all now automatically which was a big thing that made people pick humans, I think.
Yeah.
Which I kind of liked. I kind of liked that there was an incentive to play the most boring race.
Yeah.
It's like the human fighter was a common first level combination, because it's like, well, I can pick, if I'm using the point buy system, I can make all my statistics odd numbers, and they'll all boost up by 1 by picking a human, right? And that's gone. And then you still get 2 first level feats, but first level feats are first level. They're not really gonna really push you. Oh, I've got to be a human. I still think you'll see probably a little bit more humans than you did in the past, but not so much.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing when you mentioned it. Like, I think that a system of feats being leveled and having them be more organized is great, but the shift from having racial bonuses become background bonuses, it's like, how is that going to change incentives for choosing a race? Like, it changes the game pretty considerably. A lot of people choose races for those bonuses to their stats.
And at first I was thinking like, oh, that's bad. Like, I want to see certain race class combinations, but I realized the truth is I was already ignoring this. I was already doing that. I think it was the Multiverse of Madness, or
that's
Marvel. One of the books that came out, I don't know, but one of the books that came out added this thing of like custom lineage. And custom lineage was choosing your own ASI. So rather than, as a drow, I get charisma and dexterity, or I don't know what it is, please Don't come at me. But yeah, instead I chose intelligence and constitution because I was playing a artificer, and so it's like, well, I was already doing that. I was already ignoring. I should have, if I wanted to play my artificer, you know, to the book that was printed in 2014 of the fifth edition handbook, player's
Yeah.
handbook. I would have picked a high elf to fit my artificer, and it wouldn't have been a perfect fit. Maybe a gnome would have been a more perfect fit, right? Yeah. So the other thing that they're taking away is sub races. There's no more sub races. So like there isn't the
Oh,
mountain dwarf and the hill dwarf, or
yeah.
whatever it was, or the deep gnome and the whatever rock gnome and the
Wood elf, high elf,
yeah, all that's
drow
gone.
even.
That's all background now. That's all in your background.
Oh.
And if you want to be a half something, you can be a half something now. There's new rules for that, how to be a half something. So if you want to be half orc, half elf, half dwarf, now there's more options of what you can be a half
I
of,
see. But it's
or
not
what
like
you
an
want your
ordained race.
exactly. And now what your heritage will be is up to you in your background. So all of that background has
Interesting.
become much more forefront, and it looks like they've gotten rid of the ideals, bonds, and flaw in background, and now it's a little different. I don't know that I would say better, but it's definitely different. So
Huh.
let's take a look at Ardling, the new race.
Yes.
They're described as supernatural beings who are from the upper planes, and they have like a more their ancestors and originated from there, or something like that. So um, the Ardlings have like animal heads.
Ooh, I was
Um,
about to say, like, am I just gonna hear like an exact description of an Asimar, and then they just change the name?
no, no,
No.
they'll have like kind of like the Egyptian gods is kind of the thing here. So
Oh,
you could see
weird.
like a person with a lion head, or a person with a hyena head, or a bird head, or crocodile head, or something like that. And I believe the rest of them resembles just like a normal human. I don't know if they look like a werewolf kind of animal
Hmm.
person, or if they just have like animal head on top of them. Like I'm not exactly certain.
Interesting. I feel like that would make the most sense if it was just the animal head, because I feel like they could be pretty easily misconstrued or mixed up with the other
Other
animalistic
races.
races. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the Leonin, the lion people. It's
Yeah.
like, how can you tell the difference between an Ardling and a Leonin? I think it's an Ardling has a head resembling that of an animal. So I think it's specifically just their head.
Yeah. That is interesting. I kind of like the connection to Egyptian mythology. I always
I
felt
don't
that
know if
those
it's
designs
just
were cool.
Egyptian. I think there is a lot of stuff, ye old, religious stuff
Mm.
that points to celestial beings having the head of a something. Um,
I just,
like
yeah.
Baphomet has the head of a goat.
Right, right, right. Yeah, 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 yeah. There's definitely something about that connection to the animalistic world.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Curious.
they have different backgrounds they can choose from within their race, different, not sub races. Let's not get confused here. They're not sub races, but they're different. They
Mm.
are basically sub races. So the Ardling sub races are exalted, heavenly, and idyllic. And then there's explanations there. You guys can read more about them. We're not going to go into everything here. It's just a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
basically, it comes with different stuff. It changes how you're ardling, what abilities they have, attached to them. Also, the head that you pick changes, right? So,
Oh.
idyllic allows you to have a head that it's not forced, but they suggest like a bear, a dog, or a raven, or a toad. And then you get a first level spell with idyllic, and that's specifically attached to idyllic, which is guidance. And then a third level spell at a healing word, fifth level animal messenger. Exalted gets thaumaturgy at first level,
Hmm.
then third level divine favor, fifth level lesser restoration. They suggest cat, eagle, goat, or mule. Heavenly is an elephant,
Oh.
owl, pig, or stork. And then at first level we get light, third cure wounds, and fifth zone of truth. All of those spells very interesting and definitely have a flavor to them.
Oh man. So
So
curious.
yeah, then I think they might even get different resistances depending on which
Huh.
legacy they pick. I'm not sure. I just see here it says damage resistance, radiant damage. So it looks like maybe not. But with the tiefling, so let's scroll down to tiefling. Take a look at tiefling. Give me a full second. All right, here we go.
Take your time.
So they have the abyssal background now. Cathonic. I don't know how to say that.
Cathartic?
Chthonic, infernal. So infernal is the one that we're all used to, and that's like the resistance to fire damage. But now the other two have different things attached to them.
They're in like variants for tieflings built in. I see.
Yeah, exactly, and they get different spells as well.
Okay.
And tieflings can now be small as well.
Got an imp deal.
Orcs are pretty much what you'd expect to see in the half orc race thing. They still have a relentless endurance, which is if you drop to 0, you drop to 1 instead, once per long rest. Then they have dark vision, of course. They have a new ability, adrenaline rush, which I heard someone say like, "Oh no, that's not new. That's 4th edition or 3rd edition or something like that for the optional orc race, something like that."
Oh, I see. But it's like it's made a comeback. They brought it back. What does adrenaline rush do?
Adrenaline rush says you can take the dash action as a bonus action. When you do so, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to proficiency bonus. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all the expended uses when you finish a long rest.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. They have powerful build, so you count as a larger size category when determining carrying capacity, push weight, and drag lift and pull, just like our big old guy, the Goliath.
Cool.
I better see Goliath say that they can be medium or large.
Yeah. This is something that's kind of been a running joke because in our campaign we have a Goliath, and they're part giant. They should be large. They just should.
Yeah. So something that oh gosh, I can't think of his name now. But the guy who Jeremy Crawford, Crawford said in the interview when they were talking about One D&D is they were like, all right, so the reason why we're getting rid of the sub races is we're going to make the dwarf the dwarfiest dwarf that ever dwarfed, and that way you already feel when you pick that race that you're well represented as a dwarf, rather than splitting it across these different things, because they felt like, oh, if a mountain dwarf has these certain traits and a hill dwarf has these certain traits or something like that, that's more of a cultural thing which should come from background, not whatever. Kind of like how elves sometimes got a weapon proficiency in like martial weapons or something like that. Elves would sometimes come with a certain weapon proficiency,
elven grace or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, well, why is that? And it's like, oh, well, elves grow up and they get taught these things. And it's like, well, my elf was raised by humans, or my elf was raised by dragons, or my elf was, a druid who was raised by animals in the forest or something. So why do I know how to use these weapons again? So now that's a part of your background.
Interesting.
There still is lineages, right? So the elf lineage, there's drow, high elf, and wood elf. So there's still lineages, and they get different spells, and they get, different little things attached to them. So
but that's all background.
It's all background stuff.
That's so crazy.
And it looks like drow no longer have sunlight sensitivity. They just have that 120 feet, and I think the truth is just because nobody was using that. I play a drow, I don't use it.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, I'm wearing sunglasses, I guess, and my dark vision is I'm just gonna say it's the 60 feet or whatever instead of the 120. So
that's so funny.
It's just I think that's a good choice. I think a lot of these choices are good overall. It's just like, yeah, why not? Like most people were kind of doing it that way anyway, so sure.
It definitely seems like that's the case. Like they're trying to just implement things that people have already just ended up playing as anyways, and just making it a part of the main game.
Exactly.
Keep people from transitioning over. I
Yeah.
still I feel like I can understand why they would start to take the emphasis of like bonuses and differentiation, like certain of skill abilities, away from race, because then, people can kind of get railroaded into choosing particular races
Yeah.
just for certain skills. Um, and I think, I never really saw that much of an issue with it before. But I guess I can understand like people wanting, you know, Dungeons and Dragons is a lot about making your own character and designing your own way, your own path.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and it looks like that's they're really leaning into that, right? So, in the background part of the character building thing, they're taking away the focus from pre-made backgrounds that you select and having custom background being a unique option that only some people should use. Because kind of their feeling here is, and this is what I wanted understood from the interview with Jeremy Crawford when they
mm,
were launching the One D&D thing, is they were saying like we D&D is you make your own character, and people have been making their own backgrounds always. Like no one is like just takes the background and says like, yeah, that's my background, that's it. That's my backstory.
yeah.
My backstory is I'm an acolyte, or I'm a wanderer, or I'm a hermit. That's my whole background. That's it. I'm done. That's the background of my character. That's my backstory. I don't add anything to it. Like no one does that.
Yeah.
So why are we using these backgrounds? People are using the backgrounds as, oh, I just want these skill proficiencies. I just want that tool proficiency. I just want that tool. I just want that item. I just want.
Yeah.
Also, the different backgrounds. They realize some, and I didn't. I never knew this was an issue, but apparently some backgrounds came with equipment that was worth much more than other backgrounds. So apparently, the noble
Oh.
background and the charlatan
Yeah.
background, their kit was super valuable comparatively to everyone else. So now
Oh
everyone
man.
gets 50 gold for their starting equipment, and you can buy whatever you want.
I see. They try to even it across the board. So that
Yeah. So yeah, now they have examples for you to choose from, but first and foremost is build your own background. You tell us who your character is, informed by your backstory and stuff like that. But if you really can't think of anything, okay, we have some examples for you.
gotcha. All right.
Okay, so let's take a look at it. So it says background features, ability score, and that's when you create a character, you determine your character's ability scores, choose from two of them, and increase one by two and the other by one. Alternatively, you can choose three scores and increase them each by one.
Mm.
Skill proficiencies: choose two skills of your character. Sorry, choose two skills your character gains proficiency in them. Tool proficiency: choose one tool your character gains tool proficiency with it. Language: choose one language from the standard languages and rare languages table. So you can have a rare or standard language at level one, and these appear
Mm.
later in the documents. They show some more languages. Your character knows that language, so you get two languages. Everybody gets two languages. So if you're an elf, you don't automatically now speak Elvish and Common. You could speak Common and Abyssal, or Common and Celestial, or
Interesting.
Common and Orcish, or you don't even speak Common. You could speak Orcish and Deep Gnome.
Huh. Okay. All right.
So there are no assumptions here anymore as far as
Mm.
what is it that makes your character you. Because again, if your character was a tiefling raised by priests in the high mountains, why does he speak infernal?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, naturally, it's like a whole language just from. Mm,
Yeah, that's true. Like reading and writing systems are like that's not something that is ingrained in learning. Like, yeah, the brain
yeah.
is built to learn, but it has to be exposed to language in order to learn that language.
Yeah.
Mm,
Then it says feat. Choose one first level feat for your and your character gains that feat. So everyone gets a feat. Everyone. So humans
everyone.
get 2, everyone else gets 1.
That's so interesting.
Equipment. Your character gains 50 gold to spend on starting equipment. The character keeps any unspent gold as spare coin.
And that's separate from class equipment because for a class, you still get a certain amount of equipment allotted to you, right?
We
And
don't know yet.
skills.
We don't
Oh,
know yet.
mm,
It hasn't. This is just a first chunk of stuff. There's no class stuff in this
gotcha.
document.
Oh, I'm definitely very curious to see what's coming there. So they basically took it and made it like, here's your template. Like they made a background template
Yeah.
for you to
So
fill in.
there is still definitely a benefit to picking certain races, right? If you want to make a barbarian, an orc barbarian is still probably going to be your best bet for, relentless endurance.
Yeah.
That's really good if you're always going to be right up in combat and taking a ton of damage.
Mm,
You know, uh, so there is still some benefit, but if you want to play a gnome barbarian, you can still get a +2 to strength and a +1 to constitution at first level.
gotcha. Yeah. I like that. You know what? I like that. I think that that's a cool option to have, like, players be able to
Yeah,
take control of, like, completely customizing themselves in whatever manner they see fit. Like, I think that's
yeah.
fun.
And I think the truth is, honestly, most of us were doing it this way kind of anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
Even before custom lineage, I had definitely, you know, I'm technically playing a whatever elf, but I look like a human, or I'm technically playing a whatever race, this, that, and the other, but I look like a something else.
yeah.
So I think that we've been doing this all along, and now there's just rules to back it up.
Mm. Speaking of players doing things all along, all the time, I think it might be a good time for us to mention our sponsor.
Absolutely, absolutely. This week's sponsor is Kind Encounters. Often adventurers will bring along lovable NPCs that they find cute and charming on their journeys. Like Noblin the Goblin here. Adventurers killed his entire tribe, but because of a critical failure on his attack doing 0 damage, they thought he was too adorable to slay. They kidnapped poor Noblin and dragged him around for 8 sessions until the joke got old and they forgot about him. Or Bobo the Black Bear, who wasn't allowed to enter the Wizard's Tower, but by the time the adventuring party got to the top, they were offered a new quest by the wizard and went through a portal. 16 months passed, but before the party's DM said, "Do you remember Bobo the Black Bear?" And the party responded, "Who?" Well, not anymore. For just 5 copper a month, you can help these poor abandoned NPCs find loving homes with other NPCs. Our highly trained staff also work on rescue missions and taking preventative measures with adventurers. You can also sign up for this adoption process to welcome one of these poor, precious creatures into your home. Head to kindencounters.com and use the promo code Nosy Drag Inn to get half off the application fee. We work together to save monsters from the real monsters, neglectful players. We can make our world a little kinder, right, Noblin?
Dublin thinks so.
Kind Encounters. We're the kind that cares.
Whew, man. Oh, it's really inspiring to see when people recognize an issue and choose to do something about it. And I really think that that's what Kind Encounters is doing.
Yeah, I gave up a Mastiff for adoption to Kind Encounters because the party got him. He was really cheap. They thought it was going to be a great addition to the party.
Yeah.
But he just didn't add a mechanical benefit in a way that reminded us that he was there. And after about 3 sessions of him getting neglected, I was like, we've got to rehome this poor guy.
Yeah.
And I reached out to Kind Encounters, and they took him up. It was fantastic. And now he's living with a farmer, and he's so happy.
That makes such a difference. And often for those, the NPCs that they these lost uh these lost monsters go to, it's often a very huge benefit to them too, because since they've traveled with the party for so long, they've, gained insight and strengths themselves. They're not just dead weight. They're their own creatures, and they really have a lot to contribute.
Mm.
And it's such a shame to see how that's sometimes wasted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ugh.
Sometimes they get sacrificed by cults, which makes me think of the new background cultist. So let's look at cultist and see the recommended background traits they say you should grab. So with cultist, they recommend the ability scores of +2 to intelligence and +1 to charisma.
Right.
The skill proficiencies, they say grab arcana and religion. The tool proficiency, disguise kit, language, abyssal. And then feat, magic initiate, and then parentheses, arcane. So that's something that we're going to get into again. All of the spells are no longer tied to class. They're now tied to 3 different core groups: arcane, primal, and primordial,
Whoa.
which is like nature,
Primal's
magic,
like nature.
and elemental kind of.
Oh wow.
So magic initiate, arcane. And then there's some flavor text explaining some blah, blah, blah. Then they suggest the equipment you get is a bell, a lamp, common clothes, a robe, a dagger, disguise kit, and then you're left over with 19 gold.
Wow. Oh my god, that's so they do have suggestions. They do say like, here's some of the ways that you can set your character up.
Yeah. If you look at charlatan, +2 to charisma, +1 to dexterity, skill proficiency, deception, sleight of hand, tool proficiency, forgery kit, language, infernal, feat, skilled, and then costume, fine clothes, forgery kit, and then leftover 15 gold.
Gotcha. Oh wow.
So there's a bunch of them here. I think most of them are the same, but we have cultist, and I think farmer is one they added. Farmer.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Farmer has animal handling and nature. Carpenter's tools. They speak halfling. The feat tough. +2 to constitution, +1 to wisdom. Equipment: carpenter's tools, sickle, healer's kit, iron pot, shovel, traveler's cold, and 23 traveler's clothings and 23 gold pieces.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of, yeah. I like that it's not so limited. I think that people can get really creative now with like their own backgrounds, having it be in this sort of template fashion.
Yeah, I think it also it makes it, with the examples, it makes it really clear, kind of like, oh, okay, I see what you're going for here. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, and I think it's really easy to be like, okay, I'll just grab that, rather than having to make your own if you don't have a really super specific thing in mind.
Or you're lazy.
So I think you're incredibly lazy. So that we're going to go into the feat descriptions. There's some new feats that they've added, but we're going to read some old ones so you can see the difference.
Ooh, okay. Cool.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So let's take some of them are literally exactly the same. They're just worded slightly different for some reason. Not sure why. And the wording doesn't change the ruling. It's not like, oh yeah, but that slight wording is, what fixes everything or something. It's like, no, it's the same.
Oh wow. This isn't like legal jargon here, where like the moving of 2 words suddenly changes the meaning entirely.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at healer. I think I should probably pull up the old healer feat as well, so you can see the differences. You might not be, incredibly familiar with the healer feat right off the top. So we're gonna read the healer feat.
I mean,
the original healer feat.
I have every feat memorized, like in the back of my head. So just for the audience's sake.
Of course. So the healer feat. This is the 5th edition one that was printed in 2014. 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons, or 5e. That feat says when you use a healer's kit to stabilize a dying creature, that creature also gains a +1. It also regains 1 hit point. So basically, they're conscious again. They can join combat and get back to action.
Great.
So that's sort of useful. I mean, obviously it's useful, but I've never seen someone ever in play, not even once, do that because no one's ever grabbed that feat.
Yeah.
But
See,
also,
I remember I had like I introduced the healer's kit to my players one time when I was running it, but I didn't know much about it itself myself, so
yeah,
I just included like the benefit of the feat to the healer's kit itself.
yeah.
And yeah, they used it plenty, but
Yeah, a healer's kit says as an action, you can expend one of the uses of the kit to stabilize a creature that has 0 hit points without needing to make a wisdom saving throw, a wisdom check, right? A medicine check. So you don't have to make a medicine check anymore. You can just it has 10 uses, and you can just expend one of the 10 uses in action, and you can stabilize a creature. So it's like Spare the Dying with 10 uses. So that's the primary feature. The other feature says as an action you can spend one of the uses of the healer's kit to tend to a creature and restore 1d6 plus 4 hit points plus an additional hit point equal to the creature's maximum number of hit dice. So if the creature is level 7 barbarian, you give him 1d6 plus 4 plus 7.
gotcha.
Okay. Then it says the creature can't regain hit points from this feat again until it finishes a long or short rest. So if we take a look at the new one, the new healer's feat, and this is why they made the new healer's feat. They changed it. So a lot of players would be like, "Oh, I'm going to play a life cleric, and okay, I'm going to grab a feat because my DM says I'm allowed to," or the next time they get a, the stat increase at like level 4 or
Yeah,
something.
you can choose whether it's a
They
feat
can
or not.
choose a feat instead, and they're like, "Oh, I'll grab healer because I'm trying to be like the healiest healer. The healer feat will probably help me." And then you look at it and you're like, "This is useless." So they wanted to make it more useful, and here's how they did that. So it has a very similar feature to what you saw in the traditional 5e. So this feature says Battle Medic. If you have a healer's kit, you can expend one of its uses and tend to a creature within 5 feet of you as an action. That creature can expend one of its hit dice and then roll that hit die. The creature regains a number of hit points equal to the roll plus your proficiency bonus.
Gotcha.
So initially, I thought like, well, that doesn't really sound better necessarily because I'm expending a hit dice. Which what if they don't have a hit dice to expend, or I don't know, like. But if I'm healing a level 7 barbarian, 1d12 plus my proficiency bonus is going to be probably a little bit more impactful than 1d6 plus 4 plus 7.
Yeah, that's 1d12 plus like your proficiency bonus at like level 12. What's that like? That's probably plus 6 or like plus 5, something like that.
At what level?
Well, what level did you say that?
Level 7.
A level 7. Oh, that's probably like plus 4 then. For
Plus 3,
proficiency.
I think.
Oh, is it?
I don't know.
Well, in any case, so they wanted to make it a little bit more like particular to the being itself, I guess.
I think it's a little more specific, yeah. At level 7 you have plus 3.
That
Yeah.
still sounds a little not so good.
It's not super amazing, but it's a little bit better because the feat is a little less specified. So here's the real reason you might want to grab this healer's the feat healer. When you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with a spell or with the feat's battle medic benefit, you can re-roll the die if it rolls a 1, and you must use the new roll.
Oh.
So now it's an amazing feat to just have as a healer because anytime you use a healing spell at any point, right? Whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with a spell, whenever. So
Wow.
if you roll 45d6, any ones, you can re-roll all the ones.
That's crazy. That's actually really good.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Right. So now it still has the battle medic feature, right? And they kind of got rid of, oh, you can bring a character up to 1 HP
Yeah.
because, like, oh, just heal them. Just use one of the hit dice and just heal them, period. And
Yeah.
any amount of healing will bring them back to their feet. So, and it's guaranteed to give them, at least X amount of thing, your proficiency bonus plus a minimum of not one, but a minimum of two, because if you roll a minimum of one, yeah. So definitely a little bit better on that front. And then the original healer feat says you can only do this to a creature once. The healing feature of it, right? Well, now you can just keep using that healing feature as long as they still have hit dice left.
Dude,
It also gives more value to hit dice. Hit dice rarely get used.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, not many people are going to be taking short rests in the middle of like encounters this way and that, and often hit
Well,
dice.
you can't take a short rest in the middle of an encounter, but
No,
yeah.
not an encounter, but like in a dungeon. Sorry, that's what I'm saying. Hold on, guys. Hold
All
on.
right, time out.
let's take
Let's
lunch.
all take a 1 hour break. Everybody remember their locations. Put a little piece of tape and your name on it.
That's funny. No, but yeah. I mean, how many times have you tried like to roll a healing spell and you got a 1 and it was just like the most shitty feeling ever? Like, I'm spending this spell to try and aid somebody or heal myself, and I got like what 1 plus 3 when I can like roll a maximum of like 8 or like 11. It's BS.
Yeah. So another new feature that they have on these feats is some of them at the beginning of the feat it will say prerequisite, and it might have a prerequisite.
Right.
Most of them say none, and then it says repeatable, and some of them are repeatable. So you can keep grabbing the feat over and over again. I don't know if any of them are repeatable, but I assume they wouldn't add. Let's magic initiate. Yes, so repeatable. Yes, but you must choose a different spell list each time.
Oh.
So you can keep grabbing magic initiate over and over and over again. Just each time you do, you have to pick a different spell list, which is arcane, primal, and primordial.
Gotcha. So if you grabbed it 3 times, you could have access to all 3 spell lists, so to speak.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Lucky. So Lucky is a first level feat, which shocked me. I was like, I thought they were going to make that like a 19th level feat.
Yeah, because it's fucking insane.
Or get rid of it entirely, but here it is. So repeatable, no. Prerequisites, none. First level feat. You have an inexplicable luck that can kick in at just the right moment, granting you the following benefits. So luck points, you have a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus. You can spend the points on the benefits below, and you regain your expended luck points when you finish a long rest. And then advantage. Immediately after you roll a 20 for a D20 test. So D20, a D20 test is their new word for skill challenge. I'm sorry, skill check, saving throw, or like roll to hit. It's just anything that you'd roll a D20 for is now called a D20 test.
A D20 test.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you roll a D20 for a D20 test. You can spend a 1 luck point to give yourself advantage on the roll. So now it's not, if you roll a 1, right? Wasn't that what it was before?
Let's pull it up, because even in my expansive knowledge of every single feat in existence, I just can't be bothered to dig, that deep into my mind right now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's look at Lucky and the 5th edition. You have 3 luck points. So now, if I grab luck, the first level luck feat at level 14, I'm going to have a plus 5. I'm gonna have 5 luck points instead of just 3, so I guess that's a little bonus.
Yeah.
And the original luck feat says when you roll, you have 3 luck points whenever you make an attack roll or an ability check or a saving throw. See, that's a little cleaner now with just a D20 test.
Yeah.
You can spend 1 luck point to roll an additional D20. You can choose to spend 1 luck point after you roll a die, but before the outcome is determined. You choose which of the d20s is used for the attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. You can also spend 1 luck point when an attack roll is made against you. Roll a d20 and choose whether the attacker uses. So it's basically, there's just a lot of repeated words here. Just it's like
Yeah.
very. So I think it's actually a lot cleaner in the new one because it's just a d20 test. So it's a lot less words, and it just says advantage. Advantage, you already pick. The higher of the two is
Yeah.
advantage,
It's
right?
implied.
Yeah. So let's read, and then luck also says when a disadvantage when a creature rolls a d20 for an attack roll against you, you can spend 1 luck point to impose disadvantage on that. Right. So that's already what the luck feat did before. Lucky feat did before.
Got it.
It's just much cleaner language. We all know what disadvantage does. We all know what advantage does. There's no need to explain. Roll 2 dice, pick the higher of the two. Blah blah blah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know how advantage works.
We all know this. It's part of the system. It's you don't gotta go that deep.
Yeah.
Uh, wow. Well, so it's still as overpowered as ever. If anything, a little bit more powered, because it
It
matches
grows
proficiency.
with your
Yeah.
level. Yeah. So yeah, I guess they didn't nerf it. I was assuming like Watch is going to get nerfed to high heaven. Some of these are a little bit less obvious in their benefit, like
Mm.
Magic Initiate and Lucky and so forth. So we're going to look at a new one. I think I don't know if it's new, but it's called Musician.
Ooh.
You are a practiced musician, granting you the following benefits. Instrument training. You gain tool proficiency with 3 musical instruments of your choice.
Mm.
Inspiring song. As you finish a short or long rest, you can play a song on a musical instrument with which you have tool proficiency and give inspiration to allies who hear the song. The number of allies you can affect in this way equals your proficiency bonus.
Huh.
So again, another way to give inspiration without the DM's consent.
Right. And it also, I mean, I don't know how they're going to change up classes, but that's something that can still be useful even if you are already choosing a bard, because that just means you get more instrument proficiencies and you get another ability for buffing your allies, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's like, oh yeah, if you're a fighter who wants to play an instrument as a part of your background
Mm.
and actually have it have some benefit, right? You may not be able to give someone a 1d4 that they can add, right? Like Bardic Inspiration does. But at least you would be able to play a song, at during the short rest where everyone's, licking their wounds. You can inspire everyone and give everyone inspiration. Maybe not everyone. At level 1, you're only going to be able to give 2 people inspiration.
Yeah.
But it's better than nothing, and you can still kind of choose, right? The number of allies you can affect.
Mhm. And that
This
also
way
means that
equals.
everyone else in your party has got to be real, real nice to you, because you might be the odd one out, as far as the inspiration pool.
Yeah. Also, a new thing is after you finish, at the start of a long rest, everyone loses inspiration.
Oh, okay. So all the more incentive to actually use it.
Yeah.
Ah.
They want people to actually use it. They discovered that a lot of people, specifically one shots, a player would be rewarded for doing something, get inspiration, and the one shot would end, and they never used it
Yeah. Mm.
because it's like they don't want to. Oh, what if I need it later? And it's like, no, this way there are guaranteed ways to get it, and there are more common ways that people are going to get inspiration. Oh, another thing is, if you roll a natural 20
Hmm.
on a D20 test, you now get inspiration.
Really?
Which I thought, like, of course you do. Like, yeah, of course you do. Why didn't I think of that?
What?
So let's get into that. D20 test. The term D20 test encompasses the 3 main D20 rolls of the game: ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws. If something in the game affects a D20 test, it affects all 3 of those rolls. The DM determines whether a D20 test is warranted. In any given circumstance, to be warranted, a D20 test must have a target number no less than 5, no greater than 30.
Wow.
Rolling a 1. If you roll a 1 on the D20 during the D20 test, automatically fails regardless of any modifiers to the roll.
Right.
So
Got
that's
it.
new.
So
That was
crit
not the
fails.
case.
Crit fails are now
So it used to
canon.
be only weapon attacks that you could crit fail, and skill checks and saving throws you could not crit fail, except for death saving throws, where you could crit fail a death saving throw and get 2 failures on
Yeah.
your 3, or a
Crit success
crit
and get
success and get 1 HP, and
res back up.
So that's no longer a thing. It might be still a thing with the death saving throws, but it's no longer a thing that Nat 1, if you still have a lot of proficiency in the thing, you succeed. That's not a thing anymore.
Interesting. Because that is like like just for our situation in our experience, or at least in my experience, that's kind of something that's been in play for us for a long time, is like
Well,
crit
yeah, that's true.
fails.
I would say a lot of people automatically go, oh, a 1, and it's like the DM will often not even ask, like, well, what's your proficiency bonus? So, for example, I have a artificer. He has +5 intelligence, soon to be +6 because he got a tome with clear thought. But a +5 intelligence bonus, and then he's level 14, so a +5 proficiency bonus, and then he has expertise in certain tools, so he could have as much as +15.
Mm.
And then he has a magical multi-tool that gives him a +1 to his tool proficiency. So he has a +16 to using his tools. If you're gonna come at me and be like, but some tools use dexterity, fuck off. So yeah, so he has much as +16. So I could roll in at 1, I would still get a 17. In One D&D, I would fail, where in traditional
Gotcha.
5th edition you wouldn't. And I don't know. I don't know that I'm a huge fan of that. I think
Hmm.
it adds to the excitement of like, oh, but I'm like, it's an automatic success, or we'll read the rolling a 20. So rolling a 20, if you roll a 20 on a d20 during the 20 test, automatically succeeds regardless of any modifiers to the roll. A player character gains inspiration when rolling the 20 thanks to the remarkable success. Rolling a 20 doesn't bypass limitations on the test, such as range, line of sight. So I can't be like, I strike God, and then
Roll a nat
somehow hit
20.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not really like, oh, you succeed, and it's like, well, what if? Okay, I'm arguing with myself because I was about to say, like, what if the DC is 32, right? Which now can no longer happen. A DC can only be as high as 30.
Yeah.
But okay, but well, let's say a DC is 30. The DC, oh, you want to convince the king to kill himself? Well, that's not a thing. If you want to convince the king to go to war with his brother in the neighboring nation, okay, that's a 30. Roll
Yeah.
me a charisma, persuasion, and you roll a 20, but you have a -1 to your charisma. Oh, you succeed automatically, and it's like, I disagree. Now the
Hmm.
argument is, well, then if it's impossible, don't let them roll. Just say no.
Yeah.
You can't convince him. He will not be convinced. It's the dungeon master's prerogative, right, and his job to ask for a d20 test, right? That's his
Yeah.
job. The DM says, "Hey, I want you to roll me a blank check, roll me a blank saving throw, roll to attack."
Yeah.
That's the DM's job. However, many players in reality go, "I want to roll a persuasion. Can I roll a deception?" That's very common.
Yeah.
So I think like it can be really hard for a DM to just say no, but it's really nice to let a player know that, hey, you have a chance, right? But
Hmm.
sometimes that chance is fake because the DC is impossible for them to succeed. But
Yeah.
now that's no longer the case. So if you don't want to say no, they have a chance. They have a 5% chance that they will just succeed at this thing. So I don't know about that.
Interesting. I think you bring up a really important point, because definitely there are some things that are like, that doesn't make a lot of sense, or for such a dramatic thing to happen, and if someone has like negative bonuses to their scores and they still succeed anyways, it's like, is it really possible for that much of a fluke, like some crazy random chance? It feels a little bit unrealistic. I would say definitely changing up the language that you and your players use. Like, if you're switching over systems to D&D 1, then I would say tell your players, tell me what you want to do, and I will tell you if you need to give me a roll or not. Like, tell
Yeah.
me what you want to do, not what
That's
you want
already
to
in the
roll.
rules. I mean, that's what the fifth edition, 2014 copy says.
Yeah.
So
So if you're playing that strictly by the rules, I would say that's what you want to stress and emphasize. Otherwise, then, use this
yeah,
one at your own discretion.
which of course is always how any of the rules have ever mattered. But all right,
Still.
well, let's get into critical hits because they've changed that as well.
Ooh.
When a weapon, critical hits, weapons, and unarmed strikes have a special feature for player characters, so not for monsters, not for NPCs, specifically for player characters. Critical hits. If a player character rolls a 20 for an attack roll with a weapon or an unarmed strike, the attack is also a critical hit, which means it deals extra damage to the target. You roll the damage dice of the weapon or unarmed strike a second time and add this second roll as extra damage to the target. For example, a mace deals bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength modifier. If you score a critical hit with the mace, it deals instead 2d6 plus your strength modifier. If your weapon or unarmed strike has no damage dice, it deals no extra damage on a critical hit.
Oh.
So if your unarmed strike is just
It's just
one
one.
damage plus your strength, yeah, you're not rolling anything. You don't do 2 damage, unfortunately. So specifically, why does it mention unarmed strike? Because monks use unarmed strike, and they do have.
Yes.
Also, Tavern Brawler gives you a 1d4.
Also,
So
some creatures have talons and whatnot.
yeah, that's true. So that is a new thing. Notice there, and this is not a mistake. Spells do not crit. Firebolt
Yeah.
does not crit. Eldritch Blast does not crit. I disagree. I think that's a very dumb choice. Apparently, Jeremy Crawford said people tweet him all the time, do spells crit? And he's like, obviously, people don't understand. We'll just make it that way. If that's the way everyone's playing it, we'll just make it that way. They made the same argument with the rolling a 20, right? If there's a natural failure or a natural success, if you roll a 1 or a 20, they're like, well, people have been doing that on saving throws and skill checks anyway, so we'll just make that the rule. And so now they're saying like, oh, so many people are confused on critical hits. We'll just make that a rule. I'm like, I have never once ever in the history of playing D&D ever been confused if a spell crits or not. I've always been like, yes, it crits. If it has a saving throw, it does not. And I've even made an optional rule for my players that, oh, if you're rolling a spell that requires the enemy to make a saving throw, if they get a natural 1, it crits.
Yeah.
So
Man.
I just feel like I strongly disagree with this choice. Everything up to this point, I was so on board, and then no, no, this is just bad.
I guess it definitely puts a damper on like casters. I think there's still a big sort of debate and like clashing between casters and martial players. Like, oh, spellcasters, they get so much more. They have so much more versatility. Like, they have so much more potential for damage and like range, compared to marshals. And like marshals are less like fun and interesting to play. So maybe they're trying to play off of that to make marshals more like interesting and
Yeah,
engaging.
I understand the desire of like, oh, you want to make something better, but you don't want to have power creep. So rather than buffing marshals, we're gonna nerf casters. And I
Casters.
just feel like I don't like that approach.
Yeah.
I don't like that approach. I think just add new interesting features and abilities that allow martial characters to have a bigger toolkit that allows them to be more effective.
Yeah.
But whatever. Whatever. I'm not
Wow.
triggered. All right.
Yeah. Well, I
So we
think,
have.
yeah, it's important to note that like it's even if this is implemented, people are still going to be homebrewing their own stuff. Like This isn't going to be the end all be all
I
for
know, but
D&D.
I don't want the point of this is to help. It's a boon to the community of, oh, let's make rules to support the way you guys are playing anyway.
Yeah.
And if they make changes that I homebrew out, what's the point of making these changes?
Yes. True.
Also, I feel like the loudest people in the communities are not necessarily the people who are playing the game the most. I have never tweeted Jeremy Crawford ever. Yet I play D&D every week of my life for a minimum of 4 hours.
Yeah.
Every week. I play much more than that. I play around 8 hours of D&D every week. And I just got a job as a dungeon master, so I'm about to be playing a lot more than that. And it's like, no, this is wrong. I have never once been confused about this. You do
Yeah.
not need to make this change.
Oh, my
I know
God.
how to read. I read the book. I also feel like, why are people tweeting him that? Google it.
People are tweeting him that specifically so that they can kind of hint and be like, yeah, they do crit, right? Huh? Like, are you going to change the rules so that they crit?
No. People have been tweeting him in the past since 2014.
Right. Yeah.
Do spell attacks crit? And he was like, "This is such a common question. Seems that people don't understand that. Okay, let's just. That must be the way that people are playing the game anyway. Let's just make that the way the game works. That way, there's no confusion. What people assume is to be correct is correct. That's what he said in the interview, and I just feel like, no,
That's
you are wrong.
fun.
Okay, grappled. So we're gonna look at some conditions. They've changed some conditions.
Ooh.
Grapple is kind of useless. Typically in D&D, once combat starts, most people just kind of move to a location. They stay there for the rest of combat.
Yeah.
So being able to reduce a monster's movement to 0 is kind of useless. They have kind of buffed grapple. So the grapple condition now says your speed is 0 and can't change. I don't know if the can't change is new, but your speed is 0 and can't change. Attacks affected. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler.
Okay.
So now there's finally a reason to grapple a target.
I see. It's so that your buddies can come in and kick their ass.
Yeah, the target wants to now escape from you because they have disadvantage to attack anything other than you, right? And yeah, that's bad. So it's like finally there's some sort of negative to being grappled other than just, oh, I can't move.
Yeah.
Now this next one says movable. The grappler can drag or carry you, but the grappler suffers the slowed condition. So this is a new condition, slowed, and slowed is basically difficult terrain.
Gotcha. Okay.
They wanted, because difficult terrain can have differing language and there's a bunch of things that slow you down, but don't say difficult terrain. They just made a new condition called slowed. Yeah.
That makes
sense. So no
sense.
more movement halved or whatever, quartered. It's now just slowed.
Slowed. Gotcha.
Yeah. So the grappler suffers the slowed condition while moving unless you are tiny or 2 or more sizes smaller than the grappler. It also says escape. While grappled, you can make a dexterity or strength saving throw against the grappler's escape DC at the end of each of your turns, ending the condition on yourself on a success. The condition also ends if the grappler is incapacitated or something moves you outside the grappler's range without using your speed. Another thing that I didn't see here, but to grapple something, the thing now, once you're grappled, the escape DC is now a specific DC. It's 8 plus your strength plus your proficiency.
Okay. So it's not like a contested.
No more contested to get out. There's just now an escape DC once you've been grappled.
Okay. And so from what it sounds like, the person
actually that might
grappled...
be attached to the feat Tavern Brawler. Let me check before I check myself before I wreck myself.
Gotcha.
Tavern Brawler. No, I don't see it in Tavern Brawler. Go ahead and talk while I look.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, from what it sounds like, is it's relating the grapple condition to a lot of other sort of negative status effects that happen in D&D combat, where you'll like be affected by it until at the end of your turn, when you can roll separate from your action and bonus action to overcome the effects of that status effect.
Okay,
So
here it is. It's under grapple, unarmed strike. Unarmed strike says that grapple is an unarmed strike. Grapple is now an unarmed strike officially.
okay,
So
cool.
if you want to grapple someone, I believe you roll like a strength attack to grapple a target. So the target is grappled, and the grapple's escape DC equals 8 plus your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus. This grapple is possible only if the target is no more than one size larger than you, and if you have a free hand to grab the target.
Gotcha. Okay. And then so I think the big thing is like, can a creature like the creature that you're grappling does not have to use their action to escape from you. They get an opportunity to try and escape at the end of their turn. Yes?
I I suppose. I think if you hit, they're just grappled, I guess.
Wait, so read me.
Okay, let me read unarmed strike. An unarmed strike is a melee attack that involves using your body to do damage, grapple, or shove a target with your reach. Your bonus to hit with an unarmed strike equals your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus.
Got
On a
it.
hit, your unarmed strike causes one of the following effects of your choice. Yeah, so you can do damage, you can grapple, or you can shove on a hit.
Okay.
So there, if you can be the strongest being on the planet, and if you can hit their AC, you can grapple them.
Huh. As long as
They
they're
can,
not two
they,
sizes larger than you.
yeah, they can have a size. They can be size. They can be size category large. Your size category medium. They have a strength of 30, and you have a strength of 8. You could feasibly grapple the target.
Interesting. Huh. That's a little weird. I
But
mean,
now there's an easy way to escape. It's no longer contested rolls. There's a flat number they have to beat,
right, yeah. And it
which
seems
is
like
8 plus your strength
it's
modifier
not
plus
even
your
action that
proficiency.
they have to take. It's just at the end of their turn, they have an opportunity to escape from you.
Also, I don't know that everyone is proficient in unarmed strike, so there might be some classes that can just no longer grapple. Period.
Wow, that's
So like
interesting.
wizards might just not be able to grapple people because they're just not proficient in unarmed strike,
Ooh.
which means they also can't shove people because now shove is a part of unarmed strike as well.
Interesting. That sounds a little like
I'm okay with that actually.
yeah.
I think the wizard not being able to grab the goblin as he's running across the room, and it's something that the barbarian and the fighter or the monk, they're the only ones who are really capable of doing that. I think is kind of appropriate.
Yeah, it definitely does balance power more into the hands of the marshals. Um
It also justifies things. Why is the wizard trying to grapple?
yeah, I like
He
that.
can use Bigby's hand.
Okay. That makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Okay. Incapacitated has also been changed. I don't know really the differences.
Well, read out
So
the new one. Let me see if I can.
while you're incapacitated, you experience the following effects. Inactive, you can't take actions or reactions. No concentration, your concentration is broken. Speechless, you can't speak. Surprised, if you are incapacitated, when you roll initiative, you have disadvantage on the roll. I don't recognize anything because I
Ooh.
don't know what
I
incapacitated did originally.
I think that the initiative thing is different. Like you can be incapacitated but still have an initiative order if combat is
Okay.
started. Like that's new, even though you take
All right.
disadvantage of it. Cool. Okay.
All right. Inspiration. So there's some rules for inspiration now.
Yes.
When you have inspiration, you can expend it to give yourself advantage on a d20 test. You must decide to do so before rolling the die. Gaining inspiration. The main way a character gains inspiration is by rolling a 20 for a d20 test. The DM can also award inspiration to a character who's done something that is particularly heroic or amusing. Only one at a time. You can never have more than one instance of inspiration. If something gives you inspiration and you already have it, you can give inspiration to a player character in your group who lacks it. Losing inspiration. If you still have inspiration when you start a long rest, you lose that inspiration.
Gotcha. So very much more like emphasis on if you have it, use it or lose it.
Yeah, they've also changed the rules for long rest. If you're interrupted during a long rest and you've only been able to rest for 1 hour, even if if you're interrupted during a long rest but you didn't get to 8 hours, you only benefit 1 hour of. So you get a short rest. You get a short rest. So let's say you have, 7 hours and 59 minutes of long resting happening, and you're ambushed. You get the benefit of a short rest.
Huh. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's more. There's way more to it, explaining all that, but it's a lot. So we're gonna pass. Go right over that.
Yeah, we're coming around, I think.
Yeah. The slowed condition is here, so we'll read that. Primal spells. I don't know why it's kind of hodgepodge down here. I'm at almost the end of the thing, but it says primal spells. A primal spell draws on forces of nature. The inner planes, druids, rangers harness the magic. For a partial list of primal spells, see the spell list in the later section of this document. So I don't know why that's there. I didn't see. This is not categorized all that well. It's in alphabetical order. That's what's going on here. Because above there's also divine spells, and above that I'm sure there was arcane spells a while back. Yeah, arcane spells are at the top of this kind of fruit cake of random stuff at the bottom here. I say fruit cake because I'm referencing Jim Gaffigan's fruitcake stand-up thing where he says like the chef the baker just like made fruitcake by just taking whatever was left on the counter at the end of the day and just wiping it into a bowl. That's what fruitcake is. All right, slowed condition. While you are slowed, you experience the following effects. Limited movement. You spend 1 extra foot of movement for every foot you move using your speed. Attacks affected. Attack rolls against you have advantage. Dexterity saves affected. You have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. So wow, that potentially, if they're getting rid of difficult terrain and replacing it with slowed, which I don't know that they're doing, but if that's the case, that has made difficult terrain serious. It's no longer like, whatever, I'm just slowed down. It's like, it really messes you up.
Wow. Yeah, and grappling and trying to move somebody with now having the slowed condition can kind of be...
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Dangerous.
So that's cool. I'm down for that. I don't know why it has tremor sense in here. I think it's because tremor sense is now available to dwarves. They have like a thing that they can access. It's not all the time.
Yeah.
We go over it, but again, there's a lot of stuff. So
yeah, we'll definitely talk more as the more comes out, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it as the next 20 pages or so comes out. They're going to release a chunk once a month, roughly, is their goal. And we'll keep you up to date as things come out, guys.
Sounds good. Well, I'm excited to find out more myself.
This is cool. I'm like 90% on all of it. Also, guys, if there's anything that you agree with or disagree with, there is a survey that you can take at the end of the month. I think in 2 weeks or something like that, 3 weeks, where you can give your feedback to the D&D Beyond, which is now connected to Wizards of the Coast, and they'll let you know. It will affect their choices going forward. So
we encourage you to definitely make crits on spells mandatory.
Yeah, we should also make it so that if a monster rolls a nat 1 on a saving throw and there's damage to be had, they get critted. Also, if you cast a spell that has a saving throw and on a failed save nothing happens to the target, like it just doesn't do anything, that you shouldn't have to expend your spell slot.
That sounds like there's some pain there guiding those words.
I had that idea the other day, and I was like, huh. I don't know. I think that's not bad. I think that it can just really be a big woof when, as a spellcaster, where you're saving this spell slot, and then you finally use it. Like you're like hold person on the thing, and they just succeed. And it's like great,
Hypnotic pattern.
you wasted your turn and you wasted your spell slot. Good job. And it's just like, man, like especially if you're playing with like 6 players or more 7 players, and you finally get your turn, and then nothing happens, and you're punished for it by you also lose your spell slot. It's not great. I've definitely been the DM at a table and watched the light in a player's eyes fade as they wasted their entire turn, contributing nothing to the group and losing their spell slot. It can feel like really brutal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm sure people will be like, "What? That's crazy." I was thinking like, "Oh, you could roll a d20 and then a 10 or above. You keep
regain
your
this thing. Yeah, I like that. I like that there's a chance that you can still, and then
but not for things that have half damage or a limited effect, a lesser effect on the failsafe.
Yeah, for sure.
You still get something out of those,
Mm-hmm.
like lightning bolt and fireball. They just do half damage.
True. All right. Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm curious to see these changes. I think that they overall are
I think they're great.
beneficial. Yeah, I'm
I'm
definitely excited to see how everything comes together cohesively and what more
Yeah.
they add.
I'm going to be playtesting these. I have a group that is excited to use these rules, and we're going to go for it. I'm going to playtest everything and see how I feel about it.
Nice.
Jeremy Crawford argued that critical hits shouldn't happen for monsters because a critical hit should be a choice that a dungeon master makes, not a random occurrence. Because he feels like, oh, at level 1, if a owl bear crits on your thing, or a wolf or something, a bear, it can be devastating. Your player can die, which is often not what your DM intended. So they feel like recharge abilities, like a dragon's breath weapon, represents a critical strike really fairly, and it's a choice that the DM can make. And there's still an element of randomness in the sense of, does it recharge? So I don't know. I think that's possible. I'm okay with that. I just think that when some monster manual stuff starts coming out, I want to see recharge effects for way more creatures, because if it's
Right.
it's only dragons and the like can crit, I feel like, well, that's a little weird.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Every creature should have the ability to have something like some unique, special thing that they can pull out to cause shock and awe rather than just be like statistics. Because I think that having monsters crit is part of what makes things scary. Is like any monster has the potential to do something like devastating if they roll high enough, which makes combat intense. So hopefully they account for that.
Yeah. Well, thanks guys for hanging out, and get out of my tavern.
No.
I gotta do renovations. We're changing things around here.
All right, I was a little concerned at first, but
It's gonna be sawdust and stuff. I don't want to get in your drink.
Okay, I was starting to get excited, but now it's gone.
All right, get out of here.
All right.